Hello and welcome back to HGC North America, where we have the last North American match of the weekend left. It's going to be looking for more esports, taking on Team 12. I'm Dreadnought. With me, as always, up here is going to be J-How. J-How, LFM, been struggling. They are confirmed for the Crucible, so a lot of this series has got to be prepping themselves, looking forward towards that Crucible. And then on the side of Team 12, again, still competing for that playoff standings.
I think a lot of it does come down to that. If you're Team 12, you're expected to be kind of the favorite. Maybe there's an upset next weekend. Maybe you have a way. I don't know. I think at this point it's out of reach for them to get to that second spot seed. But again, it's all about preparation for the playoffs. And if you're sitting in LFM spot, you have that preparation too. And I don't think any team's going to let their foot off the gas this weekend. We heard from Zugrug, maybe a little bit of fun action. They're already locked in, maybe next weekend. But for now, there's still a lot on the line for both these teams.
Yeah, and so let's go ahead and bring up the standings and, kind of show what is on the line between the two squads here for North America. LFM, as expected, within the Crucible range, is going to be sitting towards the bottom half. They did find, out of the 8th place spot and managed to go over top of No Tomorrow here in part number 2. But Team 12 there, sitting at 3rd place in North America, will not be able to put themselves up with Heroes Hearth and Temple Storm, at least not this week. But they want to be separating that gap there away from Freedom as best they possibly can.
I'm looking at the standings. If there is an upset next week, I think there might be a way for Team 12, but it would be a mountain to climb because Heroes Hearth, I believe they might have LFM for themselves next week, and then it's just kind of like, look, can we make that happen? I don't know, man. There's still a lot to be determined here. Again, seeding so important when it does come to that playoffs, because we have a unique playoff system, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, I actually now I think it's a great time to kind of break that down, because we've been talking about it a lot this weekend, but I don't think we've described it for you guys at home. For anybody who doesn't understand, how does North American playoffs work? Because it's even slightly different than European in the fact that because the European teams were able to win at the Western Clash, they have 2 representatives getting the auto qualify, where North America only has 1. Right now, that battle between Tempo and Heroes Hearth is very, very tense, but every other team, other than the bottom 2 of North America, will have to play through that ladder system on a Friday, play a best of 3 or best of 5, clash head-to-head, and then if you win up against that one, you just take up the next tier and then see if you can claim that 2nd place spot to be our other representative at the MSB.
Climb the mountain. That's what it's all about, and I think there's a lot, that's always kind of fun about that. Again, the run from last year with EU, the fact that, there's always going to be that surprise upset. I look back as early as this year. Yes, we didn't have a playoff going into the Clash, but we had Zealots all of a sudden take down a team, an invincible team at the time of Team Dignitas, to play their way into the Clash. And we all know about that miracle run they had at the Clash, where they lost their first series, Dreadnought, and played themselves all the way to the grand final. So I think for any team, there's always going to be that factor of, hey, you never know. Like, we just need to get our seeding. We need to find that miracle run, and sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, and it will be really interesting, again, with, LFM having their positioning, trying to hear what their kind of perspective was going into this series specifically, and also that of Team 12. Again, a lot on the line with them in that 3rd seed spot. So let's hear what these teams had to say about this matchup.
Yeah, Team 12 is a really interesting team. That kind of have really crazy, good, clean games, and then they can just look kind of lost. I think when playing against Team 12, we need to put them in compositions where Kure and Dansky don't feel like they can do whatever they want. A good example is against Simplicity, where Kure was on Tracer. He was just kind of allowed to do whatever he wanted the whole game. So in looking at the draft, it's got to be really important that we always have pressure on both the front line and also the back line. Honestly, I really do feel like if it's equal draft and we're playing against anyone and it's 5v5 team fight, we can beat anyone. I actually do feel that way, but it's just a lot of the time I feel like our rotations aren't to the point where we can get these even team fights and force these good engages on our part. It's just that we're always slightly behind on the map.
Basically, this past week, our mentality has been a lot better, especially since we beat Tempo and had a pretty convincing series against Simplicity, because we made a lot of changes in how we do things in the team and how we shot call. And I think it's definitely has a positive outcome with moving forward with our team. So I think we're definitely in a good state right now to keep improving than we were before, so I'm hoping that we can keep winning. Going into the LFM match, we're going to have to take it pretty seriously, because I think right now there's a small chance that we can get first seeding, so we're gonna not take this series lightly and try to just win out. Against LFM, I think their strongest players right now that we got to watch out for is probably Swabs and Draded. It seems like they're always the ones making the plays on that team.
A lot of changes and growth, kind of seeing the fruits of their efforts on the side of Team 12. But I feel like there was a bold move there, or a statement coming out from LFM, you know, on the side of Drada, talking about if everything is even, that they feel like they can be that team fighting team. And to be honest with you, when we have seen them on even footing, that's not a totally unrealistic statement. And oftentimes is probably why we see them hinge to maps like Infernal Shrine, Sky Temple. They get that win on the team fight, and then they can make sure the game always sitting on their side, always sitting in their favor, like we've known from Team Freedom, you know, putting on a clinic in that last series. It's going to be difficult, though, against Team 12. They're a team that is great at team fighting, and more importantly, I doubt they're going to let up on that macro front.
I think for sure. And, you know, it's funny that Traded makes that comment because he's probably like the man, right? The guy on this team where if you expect somebody to come out and just bust it wide open, that is Traded. He will come out and dominate team fights at times, depending on what hero, what type of play style they're at. He's been that diamond in the rough that we've seen so far. And so to hear it from him, maybe he doesn't know his own strength. It's kind of like a baby Superman. It's like you're not quite sure where your strength lies. That's where I see Draded. And again, just seeing this team, if they come together.
Baby Hulkster strong?
Ooh, maybe.
Maybe Baby Hulkster level is strong.
Can you know, Shrite does the pose.
Yeah, it does the old Hulkster pose there. You know, I agree with you. LFM, they are at that kind of, you know, Draded is the diamond of the rough of the squad, and it is cool to see from his perspective, you know, willing to be able to say that because it's going to be necessary. A lot on his shoulders here. We have the battleground for game number 1, and as I said, Sky Temple's been the go-to for some time for LFM, and no surprise, and that is going to be map number 1 for these two teams. Bans coming out, LFM ridding of Towers of Doom, and Team 12 taken off Volskaya Foundry.
Sky Temple, believe it or not, Dreadnought, LFM has a winning record.
The only map
they have a winning record on. Yeah, and it used to kind of be like, all right, this isn't like where we see No Tomorrow where it's the only map they can win on. It's just something about this map, something about their rotational control that they just kind of find advantages, find the small advantages. They're able to take small skirmishes. All of a sudden they get a camp. All of a sudden they get a rotation, and they show that maturity factor. I think when we saw them the other day, it was a minor slip up just a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things to where they find a way to get ahead and show maturity within themselves to say, look, we can stay disciplined. We know how this map works. We control rotations. We can play around the shrines. Next thing you know, it's over.
And if you're Team 12, this is expected. Again, the only winning record, the go-to map from beginning to end here for LFM has been Sky Temple. So by no means is, you know, Team 12 looking, you know, insecure within this map selection. And the biggest thing is that if I'm Team 12, I go, this is the map. We win this one, we win the series. If we can get the win here, because this is the only map that they have that winning record, we can dominantly take this 3-0 series. So I'm looking for that on the side of Team 12 here, because if they want to send a message towards the playoffs, this is the best place to do it. Look at your Crucible teams and just go, we're better. Not even close, boys.
Insecure is the name thing. So here's the thing. Hanzo banned out here. Obviously, you know, Phoenix starting to fall off a little bit in priority. We see the Medivh hover. Tracer does do well in this battleground. We saw that. You have Maev and potentially Tracer available to you if you want to go down that route. Cure has primarily been the player on, or the person on both of those heroes. So they have some flexibility. They could choose to go down if LFM does indeed confirm this Medivh.
One thing I want to see from LFM looking towards this draft, even hearing, you know, Dansky give credit over to Swabs there off in the offlane, is just a little bit more onto that secondary warrior, a little bit less into the Sonya department. I think we got a little bit from that of them last weekend, but I think it's going to be very important to have that beefcake and have that health pool available for them in these compositions. Maev is going to be the lock-in for Team 12. I wish I could say that's a surprise, but it very much is not, especially with the ideology that, you know, Phoenix is lowering in priority. That only means Maev is going to be more so that first pick lock-in here for these teams.
You say beefcake. There's a
not the ETC, not that beefcake.
No, hold on. There's a beefcake from last summer during our summer, whatever that was called. It was amazing, right? All the skins and everything. Tychus. Big priority for LFM. It's kind of been that 50-50 pick in terms of Li Ming and Tychus for T. That's the true beefcake.
I just need to get this straight. When I say the word beefcake, Tychus and a Speedo is the first thing that comes to your mind? I just want to say, you know, it's probably the first thing that comes to my mind too. So you're right. Mine's in the right place there.
I mean, dude is
He is, yeah,
jacked.
he's a beefcake. And when that originally came out, the way you're applying that lotion, my goodness.
You know, when we were talking about lifting, because clearly I'm jacked myself, we're talking about how hard it is to bench. He's got that big swole chest, those little short arms. That's why I can't do it, man.
Oh, yeah, that's the excuse you got there, the lankiness. Yep, that's it. All right, you just wish you were the beefcake Tychus once was. Dahaka Genji is going to be the rotation for LFM. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Very, very risky decision-making already in the draft from LFM. Committing to a global caters to a little bit of that slower play style. I'm not going to criticize that too much, but then going with the Genji, focusing on getting those resets for the skirmish here, it just is a little outdated, and there's very much a reason for that. Whenever I use those words, I'm not saying that as in like, oh, it's old, but it's good. There's a reason it's not, you know, sitting at the top of the meta anymore.
You know, you say outdated, I say outdrated.
Ooh, okay.
That's Drated's hero. That's the one where he makes his name on it, and we'll see if he can continue to do that. We've got the Blaze pickup on the side of Team 12, not willing to play around that solo. Now that we see Dahaka already gone, we don't want to play around getting that banned out against you. And a Gray main, a surprise Gray main here. So locking in the damage, Cure going to be on the Maiev. We already have Goku's hero there, and now we got Gray main, who's obviously going to be Dansky. So Dansky does do well to survive against the likes of Genji, as do the rest of the heroes there. So they're going to need a lot more other than that Genji to really try and confirm these kills.
LFM, with the Dahaka already picked up, you got yourself that global, and with that Gray main being a little bit higher than what we normally see, I don't think like it's inevitable that you would want to take this risk on a ban, but we have seen teams we want to venture into that Avatar support, and would you be willing to do that in that type of situation? I don't know, but it's something to think about.
Speaking of supports, last week Justin flexed over to the one true warrior he calls Uther.
Yeah, Uther. I forgot about that. We got Tank Uther.
So
Warrior Uther, excuse me.
Warrior Uther. There's a possibility they might double up here. It sounds crazy, but I feel like busting it out last week has opened the door for conversation for us to be like, wait a minute, is this actually a thing? You can even get a little
Hanzo, right? That Hanzo was a hyper carry within that double support composition, I believe, off the top of my head. They don't have as good of a hyper carry, but maybe still.
You get yourself some Divine Storm action. If you've got another support there with you, you get a Genji like, hey Genji, come here.
Just before Justin wants to claim Warrior Uther for his own, I just want to bring this back. The original Warrior Uther was Tiger. He's a Chinese player who eventually moved over to Warrior, but he was the deepest Uther you've ever seen in your life. Taking the full offensive tank Warrior version of Uther, he ran it for a hot minute within Chinese region. Eventually moved over to the Warrior role, but it's been around for a while. It's just not ever remained at the top of the meta, not even for Tiger the Tank.
Junkrat being banned out here, that's one way to make sure that if you are in an all-dive composition, you don't have that. Junkrat hasn't seen a lot of high priority for LFM, but clearly they're picking up on something. Maybe they just want to take away any of the factors that can counter this style from Team 12, if they go that route, of course.
To be honest with you, LFM's gotten so kind of wild already in their drafts. I just go, I mean, we can poke and prod at it, but I feel like they have to get a little bit wild with the rest of this if they're going to kind of keep up the tempo over the composition that Team 12 has, because right now Team 12, it's just from beginning to end, other than the Gray main is a little bit higher than I suggest, but I don't look at that as like a flaw within the draft, just more catering to the play style, especially there, as you said, for Dansky, one of the best heroes for him.
Keep in mind, we have not seen Garrosh yet pop up even fan for a ban. We haven't seen the pick there. You know, we see a lot of Tyrael on the side of Figgy. We'll see if that does come here in this next pick.
Even though you said Garrosh hasn't popped up, most of the time we see the Garrosh, it's the other team getting the pop-up, you know? It's a little weird. Malfurion Jaina is the rotation for LFM.
ETC at this point, if you're looking at potential ways to get onto this team and dive in, I feel like the capitalization is there with Garrosh. Is that going to be too tempting, or will we get the Uther?
I'm a little concerned here, J-Hal, for LFM with this draft. It's priority-wise very different. It's concerning because Genji doesn't have the burst heal. You know, it's not a map where you're going to see Dahaka get too much value out of the side soak. I mean, Genji, Jaina, Malfurion, that trio together within the kill potential in the early game, that's about the biggest silver lining I have with this composition, but
it looks soft.
It does, yeah. And it's just concerning because I feel like if there's any area that I look at LFM and I expect to see them rise and grow and develop, it would be within drafting first before all else, right? Because execution, that's theory. A lot of drafting is just that theory. I mean, obviously, you got to be able to back it up in-game as well.
Ooh, when I saw the Uther first, I was like, are we getting another support? No, we do get the ETC. Obviously, we're missing a lot of interrupts. You can get the Twilight Dream, isolation, of course, from range. But outside of that, ETC could have some prime targets. And even if you're worried about the interrupt, we might see the old Divine Mosh. You've got enough protection between the Maiev, between the bunker, that maybe you can commit it to try and make that big-time play and allow those heroes around that to work. LFM, though, still need a warrior.
Who's the front line, LFM? Who is Figgy going to be on? Is it the Tyrael like we have seen in the past with the Malfurion to be able to support the Genji? I wouldn't mind that. Jaina be able to slow things down. It probably is going to have one of the higher synergies if you stick to a less, synergistic and more demanding warrior. Again, that Garrosh could be the choice. I feel like in this situation, I'd like to see them pull away from that.
In a weird world, I'm okay with an Arthas here. This is an all-in composition. You need somebody that can survive to prioritize maybe elsewhere. Yes, you don't have the interrupts for potential things coming in, but you definitely neutralize a lot.
My only hesitation to that, even though I agree with you in objective strength, it's just Figgy has been rather fragile in our front line historically, even when he's on less fragile warriors. Is this, the time and the place that you want to see that? They agree. They're going to commit. They're going to go with that all-in.
It deals a lot with what's coming at you.
Yeah.
Right? We've only seen 3 games so far of Arthas on Fig, and I feel like it's been a while even then. But it definitely deals with that. It allows you to basically control anything that might be coming around you, maybe slow it down a little bit, allow Jaina to maybe capitalize on that. Maybe with this style of composition, maybe we get a good old Ring of Frost action. There's some playmaking potential. Obviously, there are some questions on how this will work. But you look at roots, potential roots coming down from Malfurion, roots coming in from Arthas, the slowdown. Maybe Jaina, maybe you've got some blow-up potential.
I think probably the best way I would let this kind of unfold, because I've given my hesitation towards LFM. Their draft is not bad, right, by any means. It's just that it is not forgiving. It is going to demand a lot of synergy and very little holes within the play and around those team fights. The team fight that Dreded was alluding to before, it's not a candidate exists. It needs to exist if they're going to be successful in this game. The best map here for LFM on Sky Temple for game number 1 up against Team 12. We'll see if they have what it takes.
And it will be LFM on the left side in blue here, seeing if they can maybe up this record just a little bit. It's going to come down to the Aware. He's going to be on the Malfurion, trying to support this team. Swabs Magoo, of course, on the hero, making his name on, is going to be that on Dahaka. Dreded, going to try and see if he can carry it on Genji. Figgy on the front line, Dreadnought, going to be on that Arthas. And rounding it out is going to be T, flexing it over to the Jaina, see if he can get the big-time plays.
And in red, 3rd seed for North America is going to be Team 12. Looking to claim Sky Temple for themselves. Dansky, no surprise here, going to be on his Greymane, one of the best Greymanes we have in North America. Cure on the Maiev, setting up the team with those tethers. Justing, frontline, going to be playing ETC. Next up, Goku, always on those offlaners. He will be playing the Blaze. And last, supporting the team, is going to be Buds.
I think one thing that scares me when I see the Maiev, in particular Dreadnought, is the complete lack of mobility by most of the members of LFM. I mean, you get pulled in, you might not make it out. It's like getting drug into deep waters by, Shark, and you're just like, well, I'm going to punch my way out of here, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be too far.
I agree. It's going to be part of that flawless execution, the lack of forgiveness that I was kind of talking about with this composition for LFM. Because also part of the reason you could argue this composition, if you are going to hold true the word, the statement of it is dated, I would argue it's because the majority of the heroes that we've seen kind of get buffed or developed or adjusted since that time frame have gained mobility from beginning to end. Let's be real here. Everybody knows, the power creep or power leap, depending on how you want to look at it, that has come in, is put it into a position where that if you don't have any of that on your team other than the Genji, might be, too little too late. They're going to make up for it, though, by instead just hoping they can slow you down, which is a soft CC, right? Not nearly as impactful as those hard CCs. So it is going to be interesting. And again, part of that reason I feel like this is so demanding for LFM.
See both teams picking up their siege camps. One thing that Team 12 does do incredibly well is when they have a Greymane in their composition, similarly to what we saw earlier. Hold on a second, there's going to be a tongue potentially coming in. Dansky, he's got to swipe his way out. Swab's going to be pulled back in. There's the power slide. Swab's in trouble, Dread.
He's got passive, though, able to pop it.
Go.
Howling Blast not going to land there for Figgy. But what I think you were alluding to before is the fact that Team 12 with their Greymanes, they're extremely good at cycling front walls and getting those early game pressure onto those front walls, taking them for free if you make a mistake.
You give ETC, he uses an ability, he gets armor. He runs out of armor, neutralizes some of that damage. You've got an Uther, all of a sudden you're diving under there with all kinds of armor. You're neutralizing a lot of the damage you would traditionally take. And Greymane speeds things up so you take even less damage because you're taking the structures down faster. There's a lot of potential if we do see those rotations.
You know they're going to be looking to make it happen here. Team 12 end up picking up their night camp a little bit earlier than that of LFM. 20 seconds out, global advantage over to LFM, so they got to be thankful for that. We'll be able to pick up an extra wave there down below. This camp is not going to be timed, I don't want to say worse than Team 12, because you could make the argument the upper hand is going to be here for LFM, but definitely positionally getting slow rotations to one of these objectives is going to set them back. Even more so setting them back is going to be Figgy, caught out here over I.
Vision is important, but is it that important as we see the members of Team 12 collapse directly onto that? This is one of those moments where if you're watching the minimap, you're going to see Blaze rotate down. If Arthas is still alive, this might be an opportunity for LFM to take advantage of that global. The fact that Arthas went down, now Dahaka, he'll have to stay there a little bit longer, and you lose that rotational advantage and maybe using that global to come up and look for a pick. So those moments right there are a little bit lost in potential playmaking.
Yeah, much like oftentimes we see people with globals, especially nice Tedler there from Cure, that we see, you know, with the Dahaka, oftentimes people are like, well, if the Dahaka is getting caught in the side lane, you're never going to get a value out of the global. But that works the other way, too. You know, you lose a member in the 4-man, all you get out of that global is an even fight somewhere else, where if there's enough split push pressure from the other side of the battlefield, which Blaze surely has on his own, it's enough to gain a lot here. Team 12 able to consume shots on top and mid for some time. Both going to get invaded by LFM as we see Figgy and T push back ETC on top. We'll see the rotation back down to mid to finish the rest of these. When it's all said and done, Team 12 definitely pulled ahead, but not by miles, at least not yet here.
Structurally, things looking good for Team 12. Normally, this is the time where we see LFM maybe inch out a little bit on their own, but obviously going up against the tough team of Team 12.
That was that exact situation I was talking about in the last series that we got on Sky Temple, where you see that kind of back out. Power Slide, I think, was used. Definitely going to be using the fact that he doesn't see it get out there. Howling Blast now lands on a Buds. Body Block's going to come in after Drayden gets that Cyber Agility or Swift Strike through. Double kill here for LFM, picking up 2 easy catchouts there after Justin using that Power Slide too optimistically.
If only somebody had put out a video about that.
Yeah, you know, somebody could teach us about how Power Slides maybe typically should be used backwards rather than into my opponent.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if somebody would be that educational. But
made a chart and everything.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Either way, you know, that's a good opportunity. LFM, when they found themselves down just a tiny bit, Dreadnought found a way to fight their way back. They're up 2 kills to 1 after those last 2. Now all of a sudden we look at the experience. Both teams will definitely be level 10 by the time the next temple comes up, but still LFM finding an opportunity. They're always somehow finding a way in this. And when we looked at LFM in the earlier part of this year, even if they got behind and we start looking at late games, LFM always had this, I guess, awareness of saying, hey, look, this is going to be our best chance to take a team fight. They did that probably better than anybody. It didn't always work, but they always found ways to do it.
And for anybody going, you know, well, that's not the weird trait to kind of praise there. You know, the team fight that might be the last to win. The only other team in North America that I would say identifies that as effectively as LFM, here's HGC Esports, the only other team which now reside at your 2nd seed in North America. It's a trait that's very needed. Cure now maybe out a bit too far. Great Howling Blast there from Figgy, predicting the follow-up onto that Shadow. Not going to net anything there, but that's what you need whenever you're going to get, you know, kind of flexing over to those other warriors. And I originally was like, we've seen him be fragile on some of those others, but Figgy looking comfortable on Arthas.
Well, with that now, Dreadnought, we're going to be looking at the lack of a water elemental for this next temple phase that's now going to be here. Bunker picked up. Of course, we're going to wait. It is likely going to be the Mosh, at least in my opinion. You look at potential interrupts there. Maybe you hold it. Maybe you use it to match the global of Dahaka. You have choices, but it is going to be the Mosh pit.
Shots being picked up here for LFM, or excuse me, Team 12. LFM want to move up. Blaze still not going to commit to the rotation. When do we see Dahaka get that brush stock in? Because of that, we see Team 12 kind of backing out for a moment. Once this mid wave is cleared, expect Blaze to rotate down and get the all-in commitment. It's very important over this bottom shrine to not commit to where you get the cutoff there, which you see Team 12 zoning off with that Warden's Cage. Great initiation here for them. Going to get the one shot there onto one of them. T now the focus. Go for the throat's going to lock down a second. Mosh pit's going to be used. And now that is a swab stuck in a mosh pit. Figgy on the other side of Team 12. This is going to be 4 for nothing. Going in favor of Team 12. Brilliant initiation.
Figgy seeing red, and it's not the kind that he wants to see because it's all the health bars of Team 12 look for the rotation up. They can do anything that they want. Boss play, push in directly to this fort. You've still got temple shots.
And so what I was just saying as that initiation happened over that bottom shrine, one of the most important things you want to make sure doesn't happen, J-How, is while you're capturing it, you don't want to get split from everybody else. You either got to commit to the shots together, or you have to make sure that you control that middle shrub, that one shrub that exists, you know, between the double entrance over the bottom shrine. Because if you don't, then it's very easy for your opponents to push out, force the fight, zone off of that choke, and make it essentially a free fight. The minute that happened, I mean, there was no hesitation out of my F. Team 12 was like, okay, here's the Warden's Cage, lock it out. You can't make it in one direction. We get the pick on the other. I mean, great Divine Shield there coming out from Buds onto Cure to make sure that he took 0 damage in the initiation. Just clean play here from 12.
As they stretch their lead a little bit, Structure's definitely in their favor now. If they weren't after the first temple phase, they are definitely here in the second. As we see, the bottom was taken down, top and mid. No Mule in this game, so those will be soon to fall. You can see, obviously, both teams prioritizing those Knights up at the top, but with the 13-tier advantage, see if Team 12 wants to get a little bit aggressive with that Greymane. Maybe try and take that fort down. Right now, they're playing patient.
They've got the Night Camp on top. They see 2 people, and I was just converted. If any major play is going to be happening, I think it might happen on the lower section, or at least convert that double fort over into their favor, as you said, with that Greymane Siege. Still going to be controlled by LFM, Figgy anchoring it out. It's going to be a double Giant as a form of punishment, if you will, but it should be pretty easy for Swabs to be able to clear this, unless for some reason he kind of gets caught out or pushes that lane for really no reason, which is not going to be the case. Double Giants pressuring in. Maev even setting it up to be a pretty realistic clear here for LFM.
Just like what Goku's doing right there. I mean, just any bit of incremental damage you can get towards Structures just enables the next temple shots that are going to be going in there. They use that, the Giants, to buy a little bit of time. Now they're starting the boss. This is a little bit bold. It seems like they feel like they have control. The position of Justin has been scouted out by the Shurikens there.
Too slow? No, he's going to get the Welly in time. Will they be able to move up and get on point? The Warden's Cage locks them out. No boss steal yet, but Justin falling low. Twilight Dream goes in, hits 3 members of Team 12. Justin was the first to drop. Aware cutting out, ends up falling. Goku X Strike lands there from Drayden, ends up getting another reset. He's going to commit now on to Cure. Cure uses the Vault Cyber Agility over the wall for Drayden. Nice Howling Blast coming out from Figgy, locking down 2 more, but Cure kites out with that Shadow, able to get the retreat. Boss and Giant still sieging away in the bottom lane, but LFM wins the skirmish.
You got to respect that. We saw Drayden, he's like, look, I'm dipping out of here, because the minute we saw Cure turn around on that Maev, Phantom Knives started hitting multiple members. It's like, wait a minute, that was pretty impactful, but again, that boss and those Siege Giants ripping through that bot lane, and because it's requiring so much attention, we already see Team 12 controlling both temples right now, and that is definitely going to stretch this lead even further as it's going to focus that bottom keep as well as this mid keep wall.
Yeah, with how much value they got out of the lower structures and how much time they were able to buy by that chase of LFM, because that fight was not swift by any means. It really put Team 12 in a position where, though they lost the skirmish, they didn't really lose any of the momentum that they've been able to garner over the first section of this game. Greymane will consume the shots on bottom. That's going to be first keep of the game drop in here. And then once this happens, expect the rotation out from Greymane and Team 12 to really bring the fight.
You can see right now LFM already trying to find a little bit of aggression there. You could see the Water Elemental, everything was used on that chase. You watch the minimap there, but that of Team 12 recognizes, you know, they ended up trading out in the negative there in terms of that boss fight, but the Giants they picked up before that and that boss ended up netting them a keep in the long run. Probably got away with a little bit because they were able to escape with a few more lives than they probably kind of expected in the middle of that.
How that all unfolded mixed with the experience that we see for Team 12, they're in a bit of a limbo. We're a long ways out from the next shrine phase. There is no boss. There's going to be no major objective to spike. And normally you'd say stacking camps on bottom is the biggest place you can make that advantage. They're trying to catch out Dahaka here. For anybody wondering why they're so sneakily, you know, kind of sharking around, they think maybe Dahaka's sitting back in the soak, but Swabs being a little bit more clever than that, nowhere near to be found.
LFM's instantly going to push into the top. And this is one of those situations where it's like, look, if there's a bottom keep, that bottom keep is gone. But there's no bottom keep, so now the rotation's actually going to be here to the mid. The rotation's going to be a little bit out, but again, with this composition, they waited for the minions. They've prepped this. They still have Bunker, and this is Team 12. Dread, the minute they have that Greymane advantage, they can push in. They rip through these structures.
They rip through it. They end up getting the well. Will they commit to the keep completely? No. Falling down to 10%. Drayden ends up getting damage there onto Cure. Has to get the follow-up. 3-man Howling Blast forces out the Bunker. Will they still aggress? LFM looking for more here. Swabs needs to get in a shrub if they have any opportunity. Not going to find any. And Team 12 get the mount up.
The quick snap rotation there by LFM is just so precise. Everything that they do is always going to be timely when we look at these situations. Again, a lot of it revolves around the gray main, and the minute you have that opportunity, that's the best way. We are, however, Dreadnought, looking at a single temple phase. If you are Team 12, this is an opportunity. You don't control the eye, so it's a little bit harder with those lanes pushed out at the top. But this is one of those moments where you're so far ahead, you don't have to risk taking that bottom temple.
Yeah, structurally, it's only at most a double fort for LFM, whereas you can get mid keep and all of top keep during that time frame. So LFM has to be clever with the rotations. Blaze still sitting on bottom in case LFM realize this, identify it, and defend on the top half. This capture is going to very much show that that is the case, allowing Blaze to consume the shots on bottom. There goes mid keep. Now top is going to be barraged away here. LFM now have to answer. Do we deal with the camp? Do we go for the initiation? They're going to go for the initiation, but now Team 12 can back out, overcommit towards that top half if they would like to.
Yeah, they control the eye. So if they want to sneak back out, they just rotate back up. Yeah, Dansky, they're going to go right up. And if they want to use this, Blaze at the bottom, he'll back out. And this is what they do. It's going to force another rotation out because you're just like, look, if you see one, you got to respect that the others are going to be there. LFM has to recognize this, Dreadnought.
They're going to identify it, and they already are making the rotation away.
I don't know if they can path, though.
I mean, Dansky's the only one who's shown, and this is a very obvious rotation for Team 12. That was interesting that they weren't willing to commit all four to demand a response on the top half a little bit faster, so maybe Blaze could get the last half of that burst. I mean, that's me nitpicking at this point in time, but really with Team 12 and the dominance they have in this game, being the 3rd seed in North America up against one of our Crucible teams of LFM, I feel like it's fair to be expecting this.
Well, Dreadnought, boss, 20 seconds away. If you're LFM, that might be your last hope to force a fight over the boss because 20 rapidly approaching for Team 12. Maybe you can take that big team fight, but every time you start to cycle down there, you keep a rotation down, you threaten potentially the keep going down. If you're on the side of Team 12, that's another situation to where the boss, at this point, is not worth it. At this point, you win game with boss, but is the risk versus the reward there? Because all you need, you have double temple phase next. You're essentially able to choke out LFM from here on out. LFM recognizing they need to start the fight. Goku seeing that. We're just going to see a backdoor potentially by Team 12.
We'll find out. Are they going to go end the game or yeah, they're going to look to end this. So they show on the minion wave now. Everybody knows that this is going to be the case. LFM, they end up committing to this boss still. Damage on the core is going to be real. Bunker will buy a little bit of time. Also, Justin going to stall this out. Shielding on the core is just now being removed. Mosh Pit coming in, hitting 4. There goes the sacrifice. Now it's can the damage come in before the back channels from LFM. The Warden's Cage very early there.
It's going to lock him out for a moment. Who's going to eat it? 40% and falling. It's going to be Cure. He's going to dip on out of there, but 20% and a Gray Main. It looks like they might be able to do this as the Divine Shield is there, and that's going to be Dansky. One more attack. That's all it takes, and just like that, Team 12, the heads-up play, Dreadnought. Every time they had an opportunity to just force the rotation, they did it, they capitalized, and it doesn't get... And, you know, oftentimes we see different strategies of, all right, we saw this rotation, we saw it out of Team Freedom earlier. I'd say that Team 12 maybe stepped that up a notch that game.
Yeah, no, Team 12 looked very, very good on Sky Temple. And as we said before, this is the map for LFM. So to have that kind of control for a majority of it, other than debatably, you know, the boss pickup there for them that was a little bit slower. It was the right call, it was just a couple seconds too late. But other than that, clean games here from Team 12.
You see the numbers there, and you're like, man, nobody did any damage. But sometimes when you find those early picks and you can rotate out, we saw LFM fight back a little bit after that first temple phase, but then Team 12 once again picked up a couple more kills. They were able to easily just kind of out-rotate from then on out. And that's some of the things is that you don't always have to team fight to win the game. Like, that's just one of those things when it comes to Sky Temple. Just kind of